Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 17 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. We still are using the new team. It's been a couple of days with the team already, so if you haven't seen the last couple of episodes, highly recommend them, but it's been a really fun run. Yesterday's episode, the first game, was absolutely absurd, so if you haven't seen that, highly recommend that. But yeah, really just trying to climb into the 1700s with this team. Hopefully we can do that in the next couple of episodes, and then probably switch to a brand new team sometime early next week. But we're going to find our first opponent of the day, rocking a team of Garchomp, Kartana, Tapu Fini, Arcanine, Gigalith, and the Vikavolt. I wonder if, is this the exact same 6 Pokemon as Sam used to get top 4? Forgot which regional. Either way, this is obviously a team comp for the most part, like Fini, Arcanine, Kartana. That's a core that's been running around everywhere. You've seen Z-Move Garchomp. I was running that previously. Gigalith and Vikavolt, definitely really strong options in the metagame, although not seen as frequently. So I think Coco is definitely a very strong option here because he doesn't. He does have Fini for to change the terrain, but my Coco puts on immense pressure. I do have HP Fire potentially for the Kartana as well. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable at this game if I were Z-Move Chomp, although I suppose I do have Gyarados. So Gyarados actually, like, I can see Gyarados Coco being a super solid option here. Vikavolt is definitely a problem though. But the reason why I want to go with Gyarados is because it covers Gigalith, otherwise I feel kind of Gigalith weak. So if I go Coco Gyarados, that's pretty solid. Now Ego's really good against the majority of the team. And for the last one, I'm going to want something to check the Gigalith. And I'm actually thinking maybe Snorlax here. Otherwise, it's Garchomp. But the thing with Garchomp is I'm forced to Earthquake, and I don't have, you know, that many Pokemon that can take Earthquakes, because I'm specs with Coco. Yeah, Arcanine doesn't really do much damage against it. Although it does threaten Vikavolt. But you know what, let's bring Snorlax. Snorlax gives me a relatively safe switching into a lot of things as well, and it's just bulky with the berry. So, gonna get into this first game of the day. As always, if you guys enjoy Road to Rank, please share support by leaving a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And thanks, as always, for all the support on Road to Rank. We've already passed like 50 episodes for the season, which is crazy because it's only January, and like there's so many months left of VGC 17. But really appreciate all of you guys just coming out and watching. And yeah, let's see. So I'm going to go Coco Gyarados here, which gets me an Intimidate right away. It puts on some Dragon Dance pressure from Gyarados, and we do see Gigalith Kartana. This is actually perfect. Like, if I had to pick a perfect lead matchup, this is it, because Z-Move pressures Gigalith, and I do have HP Fire just to dunk on the Kartana. Question is whether I do want to HP Fire, because it could just go for a Thunderbolt, but I would assume it's AV. The other question is whether I Dragon Dance or Z-Move here, because I do have a relatively free opportunity to Dragon Dance. But he might not expect the Z-move. So yeah. Is there anything I can take a Z-move from my opponent's team? The only thing I can really switch into Water Z-move is Fini. So yeah, I'm just going to HP Fire and launch this Z-move immediately into Gigalith. I could win the game right away. I think my opponent's probably going to play a little bit passively. And okay, never mind. No switch outs. Here's HP Fire dunking Kartana. Sash? Okay, it is sashed at least. So I thought it might be AV. So he's going to go for a Leaf Blade into Coco. No crit, fortunately. And here's the Water Z move. And given that we saw the Sash on Kartana, Gigalith cannot have a Focus Sash. So this should just knock it out immediately. Which is why I went for it. Like, the worst case scenario was if it was Sash, Kartana, and Fini, but then it's like I still bring you down to the Sash. I guess if Kartana protects, that could have gone poorly. But yeah, I didn't want to Dragon Dance because I knew, like, I was in a relatively free position to go for this Waterfall, and it's like Risk versus Reward. Dragon Dancing doesn't do too much more. So getting rid of Gigalith is nice because that was one of the main Pokemon I was actually kind of worried about because now Ego can't really touch it. And now Ego actually deals with the remainder of my opponent's team really nicely. So given that Kartana is also intimidated and it's AV, not AV, gives me a lot of breathing room right now. Obviously, far from over, and even though that was a really good turn one, far, like, you know, it hasn't ended by any means, but we do see Vikavolt coming here. Okay, I'm fine with that. I think it's a relatively safe play to HP Fire Kartana. I mean, I think if you're my opponent, you probably protect your Kartana here or switch out. Maybe I actually want to withdraw Coco here. Yeah, I'm actually going to play a little bit more passively here. Protect. And sorry, switch out into Snorlax, and I'm actually just going to Waterfall Vikavolt for damage. The idea is I want Coco to come back in because Dazzling Gleam just knocks out the Kartana anyway. And I want damage onto that. And he protects Kartana, perfect. So that's what I was expecting. So Waterfall here. He's probably going to T-Bolt into Gyarados, expecting maybe a Dragon Dance. That Waterfall actually does a considerable amount, but ooh, it's actually the String Shot coming out. So for those that don't know, String Shot decreases your speed. So both of my Pokemon speed is going to harshly fall. I don't mind that too much though. So I'm glad I switched out there. And I was actually considering Dragon Dance, but String Shot's actually a really clever way to negate the Dragon Dance. Because then you still basically outspeed me. But I'll take that turn here. So Kartana's obviously the bigger threat to me right now. So I'm just going to Facade into that slot. And now Eagle deals with anything in the back, honestly. So I'm fine sacrificing, like, taking a trade here. So I'll take the 1v1 trade. And Vigavolt actually, I believe, doesn't get the electric terrain boost. He actually switches out Kartana. Okay, good switch into Tapu Fini. So we've confirmed all my opponent's Pokemon at this point. Unfortunately, I will probably take a Thunderbolt into a Gyarados slot here. So that was probably the best option my opponent had. But I'm still faster with Gyarados even after String Shot. Wow, okay. So it doesn't do too much damage, but the thing is, any chip damage on the Fini is actually always really good. We do see a Thunderbolt just go into the Gyarados slot. But at this point, I would say like Gyarados has basically done its job. It picked up a huge knockout onto Gigalith and just applies a lot of pressure. So Facade here actually does a decent amount there to Fini as well, which is nice. Let's see if it's lefties. Because now I can bring in my Kartana, or sorry, my Coco, and just put on a lot of pressure. It is lefties Fini, okay. Although the thing is, I actually could just bring in now Igor right now. And I think I will do that. Yeah, because I know that Coco just outspeeds my opponent's entire team at this point, but should the Vigavolt get a String Shot off, they'll still put on some pressure against me. So let's see. We know he's not Specs Fini. Sandstorm's still up, so I don't take that much damage. So I think I'm actually just going to go for damage right now. Yeah, I'm going to Facade, Fini, and Power Gem Vigavolt. Because Muddy Water doesn't do too much to Now Ego, especially with the special defense boost from Sandstorm, which is actually super nice. I kind of talked about that in yesterday's episode. Fini protects, which is perfect. So even if Vigavolt does protect, I mean, yeah, regardless of what happens here, I end up in a net positive, which is why I went for the play I did. Because I know, let's say Vigavolt protects, then Fini gets a Muddy Water off at most. And the thing is, because I brought the Kartana down to its sash, he can't just safely switch in right now. And yeah, so that's basically a perfect turn there. And now I've got Coco in the back with discharge pressure, so pretty sure Coco just can win this game by itself at this point, even without Now Ego or Snorlax. But of course I have all the tools, all these tools right now. So turn 1 basically was what won me the game. I went all in on that play, and it basically worked out really nicely. And that's why lead matchups is really important in VGC, how I basically got a very ideal lead matchup and was able to snowball quickly, since my opponent was in an unadvantageous position. So Kartana comes back in now. And with that, I am just going to Facade into Kartana and Sludge Bomb. The idea here is that Kartana has to kind of target down one of my two Pokemon, and it can either, you know, knock out Nihilego, but then takes the Facade, or if Kartana protects, Sludge Bomb knocks out Fini. And I've got Coco in the back, so at this point, I'm pretty confident about my position. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like most Kartanas I see nowadays, I just assume it's sashed, but a lot of them, or sorry, I assume it's AV, but a lot are still sashed. It really is just heavily dependent on the team comp. So my opponent is going to Smart Strike into the Now Ego slot, so that's going to pick up a knockout. Of course, I could have protected with Now Ego since that was a relatively obvious target, but there's not much reason to go for Protect right now, especially because Tapu Fini protected last turn, so I can capitalize off that. I guess this is the one game changer where, you know, Tapu Fini does have Calm Mind, but the thing is, even with Calm Mind, it cannot take a modest max special attack specs electric terrain boosted Coco Thunderbolt at all. So I'm pretty sure that just knocks out at any rate. Facade here will take out the Kartana, which I do need. Like, I'd rather just focus on a 2v1 with, you know, as opposed to like 2 Pokemon on my side, 2 Pokemon on my opponent's side, because then you're in the nitty gritty of dealing with protects or whatnot. So yeah, my opponent there, like, he could have, of course, Sacred Sworded the Snorlax, but then Sludge Bomb would just knock out Fini, so I trapped him into a position where, or her, excuse me, that I was in a position where basically there was nothing that she could have really done. I just would have been ahead the entire time. So fine making relatively safe trade-offs right now. I'll just go for a Curse because Feeny might want to protect, and I know Thunderbolt should knock out Feeny even after Calm Mind. So, no Protects coming out, but this is Electric Terrain Specs boost for Thunderbolt. And, yep, takes care of Feeny. So, that's why Tapu Koko is still really strong. That's why I really like Choice Specs with Modest on it. You know, a lot of players like to opt for Timid and often maybe Life Orb, but Modest plus the specs, like, you definitely feel the damage output, especially when you have Electric Terrain up. So we do pick up a win for the first game of this episode. And yeah, mainly it was super nice basically to eliminate Gigalith immediately, because that is a Pokemon that, you know, Koko and Nightingale can't do as much damage against because of the special defense boost from Sandstorm, but instead we were able to knock it out on the first turn and pick up a KO right away. String Shot from Vikavolt caught me off guard, even though that was something that I know that Sam, who originally used the team comp, I think it might have been the 6-8 Pokemon and got top 4 to regionals, he had String Shot on his Vikavolt. So, yeah, it didn't end up being too much of a factor there, mainly because I did pull the switch out into Snorlax. Having Snorlax in the end definitely was pretty nice in the back as well. So, just going to look for the next game now. But other than that, yeah, I think Vikavolt's a really interesting Pokemon. Sejong Park, the 2014 World Champion, was actually running it on his team. He played Marcus Stapter on stream, first on Battlespawn, then they played a best of 3. And he ran Mudshot on his Vikavolt. I think it was AV Vikavolt, but in general, Vikavolt's a really cool Pokemon. I haven't used it yet, and I might actually want to try that out next for the next team. But it's a really strong Pokemon because it's one of the few Pokemon that you can, like, Earthquake safely next to, so you often see it partnered next to Garchomp. So we're going to find a Spanish opponent for our next opponent of the day. That's an Emolga. I didn't even know that was legal in this format. Okay, this should be fun. Garchomp, Koko, Arcanine, Kartana, Gastrodon, and Emolga. So, another issue for me is Gastrodon. Like, my team actually does not have good answers against it at all, so I really have to rely on Dazzling Gleam from my Koko or my Snorlax. So I think I might have to bring Snorlax here solely for Gastrodon. The thing is, Snorlax wins against Gastrodon, which is nice. Emolga, though. That is very interesting. I think I'm going to lead Garchomp, Koko, Gyarados in the back, and Snorlax. Because Nightingale is tempting here, but it suffers against the fact that there is a Kartana on my opponent's team. And that's the main issue. Otherwise, I would definitely bring it. Maybe not Gyarados because there is redirection. But it's Intimidate. Like, Intimidate goes so far here. And I can switch into an Earthquake. So unfortunately, I think I might have to go for it. Arcanine's not bad here. It's just not great because, especially if it's Z-move Chomp. And Emolga's really the X factor here. That's not a Pokemon I'm very comfortable playing against because I don't know what it does, but I don't know. Sometimes in VGC, like, you just have to use your knowledge that you have and play the best against it. And like I said, one thing you guys might notice on Road to Ranked is I never use really external sources, like Bulbapedia or not, to look up stuff during games, because I try to simulate actual VGC settings, so it's like, I'm trying to play how I'd play basically in a tournament, so if I were to see an Emolga, I'd be like, okay, I don't really know what it does, but I'll try my best to figure it out on the spot. So we see the Koko Kartana lead here from my opponent, which I think I'm actually okay with because I've got the Scarf Chomp here. So I have a bunch of options. I could just go for the HP Fire onto the Kartana slot. And I don't know what that Kartana is running. Based on my opponent's team comp, would it be AV or Sash? I'm not sure. But I think the play I want to make most here is just Earthquaking and switching out into Gyarados. Because unless he's Scarf or Sash Koko, then Earthquake here should just eliminate the Koko. And if you're my opponent, you might contemplate like a double target onto it with the Leaf Blade. I'm hoping the Kartana attack goes into Garchomp, but I'm fine if it goes into the Koko slot. Especially if he's like Smart Striking, but you should probably Leaf Blade, especially with a higher chance to crit. But this is why I wanted Gyarados in the back, so I could have something to freely Earthquake next to. So he could protect his Koko here. I'm fine if he protects. I don't think his Koko's switching out because my Koko switched out first, and perfect. I just get the Scarf EQ off. Not Scarf Kartana either, which is good to confirm. Let's see if it's Sash Koko or Super Bowl Koko, because I am admin. Nope, neither of those. Pick up the knockout immediately. So, yeah, today's game has really just been like defining plays on the first turn. He also Leaf Blades into Garchomp, which is perfect because I actually take under 50%. He takes Rough Skin damage, and Gyarados comes in for free. So that was literally as ideal of a turn as possible. Only thing that could have gone better was, I suppose, a crit onto Kartana. But really happy about that. And yeah, that's why Scarf Chomp, you know, just catches opponents off guard all the time. My opponent presumably was going for a Leaf Blade Dazzling Gleam combo there. And that could have been pretty bad. But we're going to see Chomp come back in for my opponent, which perfectly is fine with me. So I'm obviously locked into Earthquake right now. It's not really much of a problem. Quite frankly, I think I'm just going to Earthquake again. And part of me wanted to switch out, but the thing is, what can he even do? If I get the Coco back in, I can just go for a Dazzling Gleam. So just Dragon Dance here to apply some more pressure. Garchomp is obviously the bigger threat right now. He's actually Scarf Chomp. There you go. So, good to confirm that. That's why I wanted to stay in here. Unless he crits me with Leaf Blade, Gyarados will just be able to get the free +1, and then Coco comes back in for free. So here's Leaf Blade. No crit. Okay, nice. And Dragon Dance comes up. Perfect. So this is a pretty free opportunity now because I can just bring Coco back in. I do have to be a little bit careful because I know that's Scarf Chomp. But he's locked into Dragon Claw, obviously, so he can't do too much there. Let's see what's in the back. Ooh, I actually didn't consider the Gastrodon. So with that... I don't know Cortana's item yet. That's the other tricky thing. So I might want to Thunderbolt here. Yeah, I'm just going to Thunderbolt and Ice Fang. Because Dragon Claw shouldn't knock out my Gyarados. He withdraws Cortana out. Okay. Into Arcanine. Oh, perfect. So that Arcanine should just get obliterated by this Thunderbolt. I think Specs T-Bolt probably just knocks that out. That means Garchomp's most definitely Dragon Clawing Gyarados. Yeah, obviously, honestly, because I'm Fairy. I should survive this. Yeah. Well, that happened. I missed my Ice Fang onto Gyarados or Garchomp, but I think that's fine. I was kind of worried about Gastrodon potentially in the back, but Cortana's just forced to come back out. His Garchomp can't touch me, so I can just continuously Thunderbolt into the Cortana slot. So, yeah, I'm just going to Thunderbolt here, and what I'm going to do is swap in Snorlax, swap Snorlax back out for Gyarados, and then swap it back in. Because I want that Intimidate off against the Chomp. I'm fine taking some Dragon Claw damage here. Getting off an Intimidate's more important. Could have been a little bit scary if he knocked out Gyarados, but I think Snorlax would win this matchup anyway at this point because I've got the Coco basically pinning in the Cortana. Yeah, so he's obviously forced to just Dragon Claw now. And that does a considerable amount of damage, but not enough. And even if this is AV, Cortana cannot take a Specs and Electric Terrain boosted Thunderbolt, so that just eliminates Cortana. And now my opponent literally has no way to win because Coco is just standing pretty freely, and he can't touch me. Even though I am locked into Specs, I can just switch into Gyarados here, and go for a Curse. So just formalities at this point. That's one of the tough things about using Scarf Chomp, knowing you have to lock yourself into an attack. Because if you lock yourself into an attack and you don't have a way to hit something in the end, like, for example, that Garchomp literally cannot touch Coco, so now Coco can simply win. I was a little bit worried if it was like Coco was locked into Thunderbolt, because, wow, super laggy there. What the heck? Huh. That was really weird. My DS just, like, lagged super hard for some reason. I don't know what that was even from. I guess maybe it's my connection? No, it's literally my DS. Wow. Like, the literal screen is laggy. Huh. Except now it looks fine. Either way, anyway, I've been talking for a while now, but yeah. I can just safely switch back out into Coco. Why is my DS lagging? This is weird. I'm scared, guys. And I'll just Facade. But yeah, as I was talking, the always scary thing about, like, when you're using choice users, you have to be very careful, because if a choice user comes out in the end of the game, you really have to remind yourself, okay, what move can I lock myself into where I don't screw myself over? Dragon Claw made sense at the time, but it didn't really help that my opponent's last Pokemon was Arcanine, because that literally just fainted immediately to my Coco. Facade here does a decent amount to the Garchomp. Another one will finish it off, but I can just Dazzling Gleam as well. So yeah, pretty clean games here. Pretty content about how this episode went. Overall, it was just like basically turn one from both games just kind of knocked my opponent down, and that's why I really like playing Hyper Offense sometimes, because your opponent can just get caught off guard using surprise sets like Scarf Chomp. I mean, I've been on the other side before, right? Like, I got in my butt kicked a bunch of times against kind of crazy items and Z moves, and sometimes I can throw you off guard, so that's why I prefer using a bulkier team for the most part, because it gives you options even if you get caught off guard, because you have recovery a lot of the times, so you can survive attacks, whereas a lot of, like, the last the 2 games today, it was like my opponent just didn't expect my item turn 1. I was able to get a big knockout on a big threat immediately, and that cleared the way for the Pokemon that I had in the back. So yeah, pretty clean episode for you guys today. We end up with 2 wins, almost in the 1700s now, so hopefully we can hit that in the next episode or the one after that. But shorter episode for sure, but a little bit more refreshing. The other ones have been a little bit on the longer side, so hope you guys enjoyed this one. More content coming your way soon, obviously Road to Ranked, and like I mentioned, I think I'm trying to get that team analysis for the previous team I had on Road to Ranked pretty soon, so keep your eyes open for that. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright, peace.